or fearing that their job is at risk by AI.
We're going to a point where the same as your phone is part of your day-to-day and your life, AI is going to be part of our life too.
It shows a keen eye for the future. As long as we're not touting it as being the next best thing or the same big its entire workflows, I think I'm looking for practical examples of where they potentially used it. Yeah, quite crucial for me, especially when I'm hiring.
Welcome to Career Marketeer, the podcast where we learn from leaders in the digital marketing industry. In today's episode, we're talking about how to future-proof your career in a world where AI is changing the way we work and there are questions over job security. I'm your host, Louise Helyer, marketing recruiter by day, podcast host by night. I'm delighted to welcome back Azahara Corrales, and joining us for the first time is Nick Handley. Both are passionate AI advocates, and together we will be discussing how and why marketers can stay ahead and thrive in this age of automation. So welcome both. Thank you for joining us today. Let's just really start. Don't you just give a quick introduction?
I am an AI consultant and digital transformation leader. Have been working in marketing for like more than 10 years, more specialized in the pay media part of it. And I'm also an international speaker. So I've been talking about AI to a few places like you probably know already if you hear the last episode. And yeah, that's it.
Nice, thank you. And Nick?
Yeah, slightly different background. So I work for a company at the moment called Impression. I'm a head of paid media performance, but my role pretty much pertains to all of the AI and automation side of how we work and how the agency is running. But also on the side as well, to plug my own podcast. I do have a podcast with a guy called Chris Nightingale, another fantastic paid media person called Prompted, which essentially just explores the world of AI and performance marketing together. And that's sort of my passion project at the moment. Yeah, that's pretty much me.
Perfect, great, thank you so much. So let's sort of break in gently about the kind of the state of the current, how AI and marketing are shaping together. So how would you describe, how AI marketing are working together right now?
I think from my point of view, we are in like an in-between phase where we still have the old system and the way that we've been doing marketing for the last 20 years, but then suddenly there is this new thing called AI, which is changing everything, but we still don't know very much how it's changing it. We have some ideas and we're trying new things, but we don't really know if what we are doing right now is going to still be useful in 2 or 3 years. Some of the things that we currently do, and I'm sure they will be useful in 2 or 3 years, but some new ones will come. So I will say we are in this in-between phase.
Yeah, do you agree, Nick?
I do agree. I've touted it as the automation era of AI. It's not 100% there to replace people in general, or should I say replace entire workflows. It's there to assist and be part of. But it's also helped us automate a lot quicker than we have done. If I just look at scripting or look at using SQL or any form of code, it's become a fantastic co-pilot for those sorts of actions and tasks that we have to do on a day-to-day, especially in the paid media world. It's a large part of our roles is to automate accounts to an extent. So I'd say we're in that era. I've called it the gold rush. I've called it the automation era. But yeah, I 100% agree that it's in its infancy and we're only just getting started. I think, is it Mike Rhodes mentioned a PPC Wiz as well? He was pretty much talking about how it's only going to get smarter. So yeah, I completely agree with Azahara.
I mean, in the last year alone, I'm thinking back now about when I first went to a Brighton SEO a couple of years ago, and compared to like the one after that, there's again still so much coming out year on year. I mean, what would you say are the biggest sort of changes just in this last year alone that are helping or maybe even replacing creativity?
I mean, we're seeing it everywhere in terms of like the influence that AI is having. I don't think it's completely replacing anyone's job. It's just changing the way that we are approaching these jobs. If you are in the creative department, maybe you are using AI tools that you weren't using a year ago, or and you have that AI help to create this, when before maybe you needed a team of 10 people. Now it's just you and AI creating something new. And the same, for example, in the terms of like PPC or more like related to pay media, we've been using algorithms, and PMax has been a thing for like 2 years already, or 2.5 years. So it's not that new. It's just changing because the way that users are engaging with language models and the way that users are behaving online is changing. So obviously these platforms are adapting, but in reality, we're just doing very similar things to what we were doing a couple of years ago. It's true that it's changing very much for other sectors of marketing, like SEO, for example. But, PPC, paid social, email marketing is marketing groups that always have been involved with artificial intelligence in some level. So it's just changing a little bit of how much you are using it now.
Well, I was going to say, I think I completely agree. I think, but the only thing I would say is creativity. It depends on where the realm you look at. Influencer world at the moment, I think if you see I think the top 20 influencers followed on Instagram at the moment, one of them is AI, which is quite scary, that we actually have this, I suppose, augmented reality of a person's life in different situations. I think we're going to see that change quite a bit. I'm not necessarily sure it'll overtake human creativity. I think it'll probably be more regulated in the future, which would be quite useful, I think, for all of us, especially if, I suppose, unrealistic standards of people's lives and things like Instagram anyway. But yeah, I think on the paid side of things, we are seeing from a creative standpoint, more it's becoming and helping with planning, not necessarily creating. So we're using Nano Banana quite a bit, which is obviously the new Google Gemini products. And if you use VO or any of the imaging products that we do have, it's really good for storyboarding and really good for mapping, but not necessarily there for taking over the creative element of bigger brand campaigns. But if we are just trying to check backgrounds on, say, product images for shopping or other things like that, it can be quite useful for adding in lifestyle imagery instead of it just being, flat white backgrounds, which if you've ever looked on Google Shopping, it's been like that for years, and you'll start to see lifestyle imagery appearing now. And that's how we're starting to see the role of AI in creativity and how it is changing creativity. But I think we're very much of it's there to arm you be more creative by doing the stuff that is a bit laborious and all the planning stuff that leads to the actual actionable point where it's worthwhile.
Yeah, it was interesting when you said, Azahara, that you don't feel it's at a kind of point where it is taking jobs, but at the same time that seems to be a lot of what not just marketers but a lot of people in general say about their job security. And what other kind of are the biggest misconceptions you found about AI in this sort of day and age?
I think the biggest misconception, which is I find the most, I think that there is two. They normally apply more to women, which is one of the biggest issues, which is women are not using AI as much as men. And the first one is that it's only for techies and for people that have, coding knowledge and some sort of like technical skills, which I find that quite a lot. And the second one is trust. People really don't trust it, which I find very interesting because one of the questions that I always do when someone comes to me being like, I just don't trust the results. And it's like, what do you trust then? Do you trust the word of your neighbor? Do you trust, your newspaper that you read? What do you trust? Like, what can you actually trust 100? Everything that you take in life, you always need to take it with a pinch of salt, isn't it? Well, that's the same with AI. So yeah, I think that's the two biggest misconceptions that I find, the techies and trust.
That's interesting. I like that. Like, who can you trust? What about you, Nick? Have you anything from a misconception perspective?
Yeah, I think just to point on, we are in marketing. We do like to be hyperbolic a hell of a lot. And I feel that a lot of people are saying it's either come for your jobs or it'll replace a certain part of your job. And it's not there yet, in my opinion. I think that's been about 4 years, 5 years time. I think it will be. But I think the biggest misconception is that people are scared to use it because they've been replaced, or people are scared to use it because they don't know where to start. I think I completely agree, but it's not just for techies. I'm not particularly technical anymore. I used to be, but my role isn't the most technical role as it is anymore. So I use it every day, and it's fed up and helped me a hell of a lot. I think the misconception is that I always have to have like a clear long-term action. Sometimes it can be quite small and just be impactful as well. Speaking from a personal perspective, having ADHD, I find it really useful in the morning to organise my thoughts and organise my day. And that's a 30-second action that is me talking to ChatGPT. It doesn't have to be entire workflow. I think people sometimes go a bit too big. There's a misconception that it needs to replace everything. It can replace the smallest part and have the biggest impact.
I agree with you, Nick, in one of the things, and it's kind of annoying me lately that is that the more I do AI, the more I'm noticing that there is a really thin line between when you actually, it will be helpful for you as a business or as a marketing agency to actually use AI. And we're just like feeding us AI, and it needs to be in everything. And, and we need to embrace it no matter what. And I'll say like that's a big misconception. And it's like, you don't need to embrace AI just for the sake of embracing AI. You need to look first if it's helpful for your business, and if it actually is gonna, your clients are asking for it as well, if it's just going to make your life better. If not, you don't need to add it right now because there's no need. And we're still in the process of changing, and like I say before, like we don't know what's going to happen in 5 years, so you can still get on board in 2 or 3 times when it actually makes sense for you.
Yeah, no, I think I completely agree. I think from an ads point of view and paid media, like you said, we're using it every day. There's no need to try fit it in. Like we are using it in things like PMax or AI Max, or even on the SEO side where we're now looking at what LLMs we can appear in. There's no need to like shoehorn it into your business. I think having a clear understanding as Azahara, as a consultant, I imagine you do this all the time, is like try find those use cases before you even start. Because quite often it feels a business is like, how do we even fit this? How do we even understand it? And then they just want to force it in just to say that they are AI instead of it being actually worthwhile. 100% agree, and I see it all the time.
Going back to, I suppose, the purpose of this podcast, there are people out there who are feeling or fearing that their job is at risk, and that in this new era that they feel that they could be made redundant, that their job will be replaced in the next 5 years by AI. I mean, what do you think someone with those kind of thoughts should be doing?
I think it's good. It always remind me, all of this remind me to like my time of going to uni. And one of the things that they always were like, oh, it will be good, very good for you if you have in your CV that you know how to do Photoshop. And, I think I had never used for my professional life Photoshop, and I know how to use it. I have used it in my personal life, but I never used it in my professional life. But it was kind of like good to have it in your CV. It was like, something to have. I think AI is kind of the same. It's good, even if you're not using it, it's good to start getting to know it, because that's where we're going. We're going to a point where the same as your phone is part of your day-to-day and your life, AI is going to be part of our life too. So the earlier adopter you are, the more comfortable you're going to feel with the technology, the more you're going to learn how to communicate with the machine, etc. So I think it's just good for you as a person, as your growth as a person. Is good to know AI. And then just display it in your professional CV. We are in a moment where there's not many jobs out there, and companies are looking for this type of skills already. So just to have that AI certain knowledge is just going to give you an advantage compared with someone else.
Yeah, I think I do agree. I think it's hard to pin down and say that, I don't think any of us can really tout saying we're, an expert in any part of AI. It's like you can be an expert across the whole thing, but it's so new and so non-incessant. Like we're still learning and new things coming out every day. So we are in that sort of like gold rush era of it. But I think exactly, I agree. It's trying to show practical examples on things like CVs. There's qualifications you can do now. Ones that I've recently done was for Google like AI qualification. Granted, it didn't really tell me too much, but it's always good to show that you have, an understanding or at least interest in things that are going to impact businesses. I think from a creative angle, it's probably showing the planning side. From an ads or a media point of view, showing how you'd use it, to optimize. I think it's understanding the language and terminology as well. Not necessarily many practical examples of where you've used it in work, but at least try to show where you're interested in. And one thing I'd always recommend to anybody, not necessarily AI, but it's automation AI, is to try learn something like NAN or make.com or any form of automation tool that allows you to play around and understand those workflows. I think it's going to become incredibly integral, especially from a paid media point of view. It's multiple disciplines within digital. Maybe I can't speak for other areas, but I know that digital will become a lot more automated. So showing that skill set and how you do AI is going to be quite key. So yeah, that's how I think you keep ahead of it without feeling fear-mongery with it, if that makes sense.
I mean, do you think, say, if you were speaking to somebody who'd never used AI in their professional world, but were maybe using it for personal use, possibly, would you see that kind of activity valuable?
Oh,
Yeah,
100%.
100%.
I'm interviewing at the moment for a few roles, and if people speak to me about AI or automation, even if it is on the personal level, it's really interesting. I think it shows a keen eye for the future and shows something that's actually quite topical and relevant now. As long as we're not touting it as being, the next best thing or saying big its entire workflows. I think I'm looking for practical examples of where they potentially used it, to create something. Even if that's like, I spoke to somebody the other day that used AI to create birthday cards and, tried to make it a bit personalized. I'm like, even stuff like that's really cool because people don't talk about their use case for it quite often. It feels a bit closed doors quite often. So yeah, I think personal experience is yeah, quite crucial for me, especially when I'm hiring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. And I think it comes down to the fact that the use of AI, especially if we talk about language models and automation, is quite straightforward. So if you are creating an automation to create your blog post into LinkedIn post, for example, for your own brand or for your own pleasure, let's say, there's no difference between doing it for yourself than doing it for a company. It's just the same process. Once that you know how to create an automation, it's just the same, it's the practice. So if you do it in your personal life, you're going to know how to do it for your professional life as well. So, and the same with a language model. If you know how to speak and you know how to create a prompt, it doesn't matter if you're asking to create the meal plan for the week, that you are asking it to create, a content plan for the month. It's just exactly the same. So your daily examples are very good, useful learning for your professional life.
Yeah, no. Something I see a lot of people discussing on LinkedIn is in the future, we're going to see people who are depending on AI too much are going to be showcased. It's going to be very obvious. People often think about is how carefully we should be relying on AI as part of our day-to-day job, or do people need to be thinking outside the box and how they can differentiate that? Because I suppose everyone's got the facilities now to use AI in their day-to-day, but at the same time, how do you make yourself stand out from the crowd?
Yeah, authenticity is one of the things that I find the most. I think is depends on what the job is. I say you don't need authenticity to reply a client email, for example. In fact, that's what it helps you with the tedious tasks that you don't want to do, isn't it? In terms of like, if you want to be creative, the AI tool is there to enhance that, to, have the idea and the AI tool help you to develop it and to create it. And if you want to maintain, your tone of voice and you want to maintain who you are, like don't give the 100% responsibility to the machine. Always create it you first and then use the AI to supervise it or to get a second opinion. Do you reckon this is nice? You will be successful, like a second opinion kind of debate. But yeah, I think that's the way of like keeping, just don't give full control to the machine. Then it will be just machines talking to machines. That's what it's gonna be. Yeah.
I do agree as well. Just to chime in on that, I think creativity is always going to be a thing that should be kept human. I think, like you said, authenticity, and I put that in the creative bucket. I think if you rely too much on it, it sticks out like a sore thumb. Now, if you see people, especially with content writing and copy, it's quite easy to spot. And even that has changed over time. Like most rules of three for a while, then you'll find certain phrases or words, especially when it comes to an LLM like ChatGPT or Gemini. They're just learning on the world around it and what is readily available. Like, it's the beauty of humans is we have thought and we can think and we can bring ideas that aren't regurgitated or technically not regurgitated like it has to do online. So yeah, I think we should never rely on it fully. It should always be, it should be a co-pilot in a lot of ways when you are using it. But yeah, I think the whole brand identity and the brand voice, whether that's your personal one or whether at a business, is something that should but always stay human, never be just AI driven. And yeah, you can see it. But I look at people that are, in younger generations that are probably using and growing up with AI or, LLM usage. And I am a bit concerned that we are taking away critical thinking and taking away that from people that, are quite crucial to one, living and, having a varied and interesting life, but also for skills in a workplace as well. Like you can see it already sort of creeping in where people are getting, dare I say, lazier with how they market or how they work. Yeah, I could go on a rampage and an absolute rant this. But yeah, it's something that I think we need to address as, employers or as, people that have not been in that world, is to teach people those skills and then show how can incorporate AI so it doesn't take over their entire job or their entire life where they are too reliant on it. But if an ads account goes down for me, I can't go to ChatGPT and ask how an ads account's gone down. I've actually got to do the analysis to work it out. Use ChatGPT to do a bit of data analysis for me, but I can't ask it to do everything. Sorry, that was a bit of a longer rant than I thought, but apparently I'm more passionate about this now.
No, it's good. Funny enough, you say about like the next generation, because I've got a 1-year-old, and I can't wait for the day. Well, I suppose I can, but the thought of him saying, "I don't want to do my homework. I've got to write an essay about why did World War II start," and I'll be thinking, all you got to do is punch a line in ChatGPT and it'll do it for you. Are the next generation just going to think that's all I've got to do? And I'll be there thinking, I actually had to write the damn thing. And you're moaning about having to write in an instruction into a machine. So it does make me wonder if that's where we're going, what the future is holding.
In that sense, I think one misconception in this sense is to think that what we already have or what we already been doing is good and is correct. And I think yes, there will be a lot of people that they will become completely isolated and they will be only surrounded by machines, and they will have a girlfriend AI and all this stuff. But also at the same time, I think if we use it correctly, we have a really good opportunity to do it better. So yes, they may not write an essay anymore. Like maybe that's not part of evaluating someone's knowledge, and someone's intellect won't be creating an essay anymore because ChatGPT is going to be able to do that. But we will change, or hopefully we will change the way that we evaluate someone's intelligence or, someone intellect by doing a different test that it actually shows the capacity of a person that sometimes is not related of how good you are writing an essay. So I think that's the opportunity that, by the machine taking some of the task, if we do it right, and that's where the human side of things comes along, I think, where we can actually we need to put legislation and we need to put certain rules to be able to do the best that we can do with this technology, because otherwise if we leave it, then yes, we will end up a little bit isolated and not socializing at all. But I think we have a great opportunity to do something really good with this.
That's a really interesting thought, because I think in a weird way the education system has almost been driven to teach us how to pass exams versus how to actually learn and retain and take on valuable information. For me, it feels like, looking back, to a degree, teachers were driven by, how we passed our exams. It just produced this essay regardless of, did you actually retain that knowledge? What did you get from that knowledge, that kind of thing. So I think that's an interesting perspective of how we reevaluate those kind of things. Looking at sort of the future of sort of everything sort of marketing related, what do you see as the kind of the main qualities that really justify that kind of human input? What is it? Like you said, Nick, like you're growing your team. So from a person, human qualities, say if you've got somebody who's an AI whiz, what are the human qualities you still look for and value in a marketer?
Yeah, I think communication is a big one. I think actually being able to make human connection, it sounds really daft because it is a large part of what we do. But I think actually being able to convey ideas or convey in a way that, gets buy-in or gets people bought into what you want to do is hugely beneficial. Those sort of like human skills that I'd always love to say human. So the AI ain't going to replace that all, it can't do the talking for you. So I think a lot of like social skills, especially with work, is quite important for into-work politics or, winning clients or making sure that you're just a decent person to work with. It's quite important. And I generally look at cultural fit and that side of things more than I look at technical fit sometimes. So I feel that you can teach the technical as the day old it goes. You can teach technical, but you can't teach somebody to not be a bit of a horrible person to work with. So I want to make sure that always will stay human. And there's no, in my opinion, no AI right now that's going to teach you how to be a better person. It can help you educate, but it's never going to do it. I think that's probably the biggest point I'll stick on, is that human interaction is probably the biggest outlier of, if you can be a liked person in a room or have a valued opinion or convey in a way that actually is articulate to an audience, then that's 100% the way that I still see human input being absolutely crucial and key to the future, especially as we move more into community-led events and, people are wanting to do more things in person, because AI is stuff fine and, there's dead internet theory and other bits like that. But I feel like we are moving more into a community-led drive again, where people are actually wanting to spend time together. So those skills are actually incredibly important to me.
I think COVID and lockdown, that had a big impact as well in recent years. But yeah, I'm certainly noticing the rise and the comeback almost of people working in an office and people sort of trying to get together more. And I am also seeing businesses still adopting practices where they've got rid of their office but still want to try and meet up with the team, things like that. And that's important. And to just keep that kind of culture and human quality together. So, yeah, it's a funny old one to sort of know, if you were giving advice to somebody who was starting their marketing career tomorrow, and what you would tell them is that the key thing to invest in, outside of technical skills, I suppose it's knowing what that might mean. Do you think something like emotional intelligence or just general authenticity is going to become like the new sort of currency in this?
Yeah, 100%. We're going to a moment where there is going to be so many changes, and resilience, and being able to adapt. Like if you have a really close mind where it's like, I only do this job and this is what I want to do for the next 10 years of my life, then you are in the wrong and you're probably not going to have a job next year. I think realizing that your job is going to change over time, that you may need to change companies because a lot of companies will go bust, and it's a mix between AI and economy. So you need to be able to adapt to what is coming. And so people that are like, being able to have that resilience to mentally prepare themselves to like, I have learned all this, but maybe this new skill will help me to find something different. Or maybe I should work in a bar now, because more that type of job where we are seeking that social and hanging out with other people. I was listening to the other day to something, and they were saying that there is this new app that you can pay for people to walk with you, which I thought it was mental, that you can pay someone to walk with you. And that's where we're going. Yeah, we are going to like seeking that type of interactions where you're paying someone to work with you. So that's someone that saw an opportunity and thought maybe there is a job to be done here. So that kind of that ability to be able to say, you know what, everything that I'm doing is not working. Maybe someone will pay me to work with them. I'm going to do it. So I think that's where we're going, to see the opportunity and try it.
Yeah, I'd say it is relatable. I think your point, Louise, to start is probably the most poignant one there for me around emotional intelligence being a huge thing. I think with the rise of, I suppose, technical, I would say being taken by things like AI and automation, but it's become a lot easier and the barrier to entry got a lot lower. I generally do feel that emotional intelligence, empathy, and most softer skills are, are hugely beneficial now. I think, let's be honest, not just in work, but in life in general. Like you will have a better time if you can, be a bit more empathetic and, understand other people a bit more. So yeah, I think we're moving more towards that realm. With the community-led stuff, I completely agree with Azahara. But with the community-led side of things, and like jobs changing, and we'll probably see a rapid shift. Maybe not now, but we may not see it happen year on year. But in the next 5 years, I reckon we're going to see a huge shift in how we work. So yeah, completely. I agree with everything. Is the easiest way to put it.
It's funny. We sort of go back to like the community, because you might not know, Nick, I run a sort of marketing community event that Azahara has actually spoken at, and it's been going for a couple of years now. What was really nice actually at our last session is we always have an eclectic range of people, people who've been in marketing for years, some freelancers and so on, but we actually had a couple of students who came along the other day, and it was really nice actually to have somebody who's really at the beginning of their marketing career. If they're listening, hi. Just have somebody who has got such a different perspective of the world of marketing. And we were discussing about, what produces authentic content or creation. We were talking about searching and scrolling and the power of both. And nearly everyone in the room supported search. And then they were the only ones that voted scroll. And it was so interesting because I said, can you give me a reason why? And it was a proper from my perspective as a Gen Z, who this is how I use scrolling platforms. They really justified their answer, and we wouldn't have had that voice if it hadn't been for them attending an event and raising their hands and giving their view. And I think we all took away a different thinking strategy, I guess, about what the future is going to look like for, and how AI is a part of this, and just our general marketing activity and how we live and breathe in this sort of digital world.
I just want to say that I have a theory that everybody's so focused on digital marketing and how language models are going to change. And now it's no SEO anymore, it's AEO. And I think that marketing agencies should start focusing again to the physical marketing, to the newsletters that you send at home, to the letters that you send, to the catalog, because I think there's going to be a lot of that in the future, because we are seeing a lot of rejection as well to the technologies, and people are seeking that community and having that interactions and having that, going into these events, maybe seeing the podcast live. All this is also going to be a boon in marketing that, I don't think marketing agencies are focusing too much on that side of things. And I think it's going to be very relevant in the next few years.
It's interesting take. I see people reject things like flyering quite a bit, but I think in community events and brand building events where a brand isn't, if you look at a Chanel, it's very different to say, Adanola, for example, where it's built by community and it's built by brand. And all of these, like, to get to that brand building point, you need the community and the in person, the in real life events, like the out of home, the rest of it. I think, to your point, Azahara, I agree in parts. I think marketing's becoming a lot more diverse again and becoming, dare I say, a bit more traditional in certain ways, which I absolutely love. Like seeing big out-of-home events or pop-ups and whatnot is absolutely amazing to see. And it's a lot more engaging to just, hey, I've got this random ad on TikTok, but I'm really not about. I am happy to see that happening in marketing. We're seeing it in the industry from an as point of view. Is that a lot of people are actually investing more in programmatic but digital out of home nowadays. Whereas before it used to be a really hard sell when people now like, we want to be seen in real life. That's where people want to be, which is really, really cool. So I think your hypothesis and theory is it could be true in years to come.
Yeah, I think it's based on, for what I'm seeing in terms of trends. I was seeing the other day that social media use has declined everywhere in the world except United States. United States is the only one that is going up, but they have their own things going on, so you can't really. But everywhere else, social media is declining. And then we are also seeing that people that are using social media, they are scrolling, but they're not clicking. And I also read an article the other day about language models and how people are reading, but they're not clicking in the links. They are actually not interacting with it. I feel that, maybe not so much younger generations, but like maybe someone a little older, because they are tired of using social media and they are fed up with everything and having so many ads. I read as well about people complaining that they are sick and tired of seeing ads in social media and Google, etc. Then suddenly they receive something at home, like a catalog, that can make your brand differentiate you from the rest of the noise and the social media. So I think there is something very interesting with the physical side of the traditional marketing. I actually do believe that we are going to come back, not only because of this part, but also in terms of branding and then how we used to do marketing before we had access to data. And we are going to come back to that type of like traditional marketing, which I think is very useful for people that still wonder and ask themselves, why should I go to university, for example? Why should I study something when the future is creating content for social media or creating an automation and I don't need to go to uni for that? I think that having skills like knowing marketing could be very useful for the future, because we're not going to have access to data like we used to, and all these things that, having that type of knowledge is gonna be very relevant.
I mean, do you think sort of starting at like the very beginning, like of where marketers and how people need to adapt their career to sort of stay afloat? I mean, say you've got somebody who's in marketing now and is purely focusing on the execution, like ads and content, SEO, just pure delivery. Are people like that most at risk? Should they be looking longer term at how they can be looking to be, I suppose, more influential in terms of strategy, analytics, that kind of thing? What should somebody who's maybe made a start in whatever specialism they may be in, or if they're a bit of everything, where do you think their next step should be moving forward?
Good question. I think people are reticent at the moment to jump onto new things. I do think strategy is an area that it requires a lot of human input. So I think it's something that would be daft not to mention. To try get more experience in of building the strategies out instead of just being execution or activators as such. Especially in paid media, like when you start out, or when I started out, it was cutting your teeth and just like you'd set up campaigns, you'd be putting keywords in, you'd be adding ad copy. It'd be a bit of a dull process. I feel that it changed slightly where because we've got a lot of AI and automation going on within accounts already, people are being probably a bit more strategic. But I think honing in on that strategy and honing in on things that, creativity is probably one thing I'd expect most people to look at or be looking at now. Because it's something that's incredibly hard to, replace with AI in particular. But I think also those human skills, like client handling, for example, is a big one. Like actually, putting yourself forward for going into those sort of situations, pitching scenarios, all the things that make us human and sort of differentiate us from AI is probably where I'd see people take their next step to move away from just being execution partners to being actually like strategists, to being client partners, to, being a bit more human with their approach. So yeah, I think in short, I'm not sure if I came across, but yeah, move more into the strategy side and move more into the element of it where you actually forge and craft relationships, which is really hard as an introvert or, somebody that maybe a bit more shy. But please push yourself out of your comfort zone, because I think the world of digital is probably going to go that way, where we may have less executors and more strategists and more client partners and other things like that.
Do you agree, Azahara, on that?
Yeah, totally. Like, I think like you don't need to worry very much for the next few years. If you are doing PPC and pay social, you are just gonna do PMAX and AI search, and you're gonna start running ads in ChatGPT, which is what is coming next year. So that's the near future. Yeah, that's the near future for someone that does pay media. In terms, if you are a CEO, I see the future a little bit more complicated, but I also will say don't worry yet, because there is still 89% of people that use Google search every day. So yeah, that's declining. And I am 100% sure that even in like 5 years, there will still be a percentage of the population that will still use Google search. It's like, when mobile phones and you have your bank app in your phone, how many people were using their bank apps, but how many people they actually still go to the bank place to get their money out with their card and everything. So there is still going to be a percentage of people doing that traditional. I can't believe that Google search will be the traditional
It's funny,
way of.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny you said Nationwide are always big on that, aren't they? About, we don't close any of our bank branches, that sort of thing. And funny enough, I was in the bank yesterday setting up an account for my 1-year-old, because apparently you can only do it in person. So, but it was really nice. I talked to the woman at the desk. She was telling me about what her son wanted for Christmas and how it was going to cost a fortune because Power Rangers are apparently back in. And again, it goes back to that sort of human interaction that we had versus other banks where it's like, yeah, just set up an account, scan a copy of his birth certificate, you're good to go. I actually had to go in there. And at first I thought, this is a pain, but it was kind of nice in a way, just having a chat and somebody relatable and those kind of things. And again, I've been with Nationwide for so long. Is that a part of their sort of brand campaign? Is that a reason why they try and keep their branches open?
Yeah, for a very specific part of their community. That's just another way of doing marketing. And I'm sure a lot of companies, they will decide to stay in Google search just because part of their audience will be in Google search. So it's just gonna diversify much more your channels, and you're just gonna have more opportunities to show yourself. So like what Nick was saying, that's why strategy is fundamental, because you get to need to understand this and understanding your client and your audience to see where you can find them, like we always have done. But even more because we're not going to have access to data as much as we used to. So you're going to really need to understand your audience and see where you're going to find it. It may be Google search or maybe ChatGPT. Just can't give for granted that it's going to be ChatGPT because you don't know. So there is going to be many channels living together for a really long time until, everybody gets to that jump of getting into just language models.
Another one I always think of is like when you go to the supermarkets and there's still all, I don't know if you've noticed it as well, there's always energy providers or charities at the front desk, and you like don't make eye contact. But again, it's another kind of hook that they've got and a way to recognize the brand, and they're still there.
It's another touch point, isn't it? Especially if this still needs to hit an older generation. Like it generally will be offline or traditional forms of media. For example, the paper on offline, or like you said, traditional Google search, which feels weird to say, but yes. But yeah, I think obviously there's a lot of macroeconomic challenges that we're facing in the UK at the moment. But I think community and those in-person events will still be key. Like having your like your Tesco club card person walking around, asking if you need one, that sort of stuff. But yeah, I think it will change eventually. I just don't think it'll change yet.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we mentioned like the next 5 years, there's still a lot of development going on. Do you think there will come a point where AI will ever like handle strategic decision making, or that will always sort of rest with the human touch? Yeah.
I generally do think if I'm going to fear monger, I feel that there is an opportunity that AI will be able to handle strategy as long as it's got the right parameters and the right information set. But that will also always have to come from or be curated by a human. Like there's certain contextual factors that it's probably never going to know unless it's fed. Much like when it sees information online or crawls, like it can only work on what it has and build context from that at the moment. It's not really got the full thinking of it's the same as us. Like we don't necessarily bring anything new to the table. It's just thoughts, feelings, and experiences that we can all put together. So yeah, there's a chance it could potentially take over things like strategy. I don't think it will. I think it will always inherently be human. Creative strategy will be. I think paid media strategy is probably the one that I look at that could be done by some form of AI at some point, especially if a product or procurement strategy, for example, if you're selling on Amazon or Google Shopping, is like you can probably work out trends and then work it from there. So essentially, that's what we're doing quite often. Is like we've seen this gap in the market from these search terms. We would recommend putting this product in, or would recommend creating a product that fills that gap. It could probably do the same, but it's always going to be human that probably activates on that.
I completely agree. I agree also because I don't think that, maybe the big corporations, they are able to put their money into a machine and be like, yay, let's see what happens. But the rest of the clients that they look every single budget to the dime, I don't think they will be happy to say, yeah, we're going to give this money we're going to put the money in what this machine is telling you. And people are going to be like, yeah, okay. I think you're always going to need a human interaction that is like basing my knowledge and the knowledge that I'm acquiring from this. I think this will be the best decision. But you still need that human interaction to someone to trust and also someone to blame. So if things don't go right, yeah.
I tell you what we should do. We should book in for 2030. Let's book down to do this whole podcast again and see what's happened in the years and watch back on this and then see what the next, because that's how it is interesting to think, what is going to be there in the next 5 years, and probably how naive we'll probably all look back. And I think that's just how it is in general, really, isn't it? Just the naive it all.
Yeah, we'll be bringing, not even be us, it'll just be AI.
Yeah, it will be our avatars.
It's not an avatar on the screen.
God, yeah. That's a real weird thought. The thought of, I'm noticing more. We've been approached ourselves about, you could have this tool that will make phone calls for you and basically outbound to all candidates about a role or so and so. And we were kind of like, what? That's not great. Is that going to be the next thing? Is it kind of, you don't ever need to attend the client meeting again, just chuck it on Teams and just do this and it will do it all for you? And that's, again, like how much trust and how much intelligence could go into that. I might have just created a business idea for someone, but it's probably already been made.
In my past corporate life, I will have been really happy to have an avatar to attend the amount of meetings that sometimes you have that are not useful at all. There may be some sort of idea in there where you just like, take notes and then just bring them back to me, resume from me, and then just done and great. So yeah, maybe there is some sort of future for some of them meetings.
Yeah. Oh, well, 5 years time then our little avatars will be having podcast chats. Part 2, see what we've got. Now sort of drawing things back to, I guess, thinking about people who are about to kickstart their marketing career, really. As we've sort of said, teams are getting leaner with hiring process. I'm already seeing it, particularly, for juniors, which is sad to say. From a junior perspective, it's becoming more difficult to sort of get that first role, really. How would you say that, with AI, how do juniors and marketers really get a fair start to kickstart their career? What should they be doing, thinking about, and what should leaders and team leaders who are hiring be doing to support a new generation?
It's interesting at the moment because I am hiring, and Impression is hiring at the moment we've got all of the most recent people we've hired are all graduates. So we actually start next Monday, which is quite mad to think we've got 7, I think, starting on Monday, that are all graduates straight from university, which is nice to have. I think from experience, we actually have 2 people within the business that are dedicated to learning and development. Granted, we're in a very privileged place to be. Not every business will have that, but they can spend pretty much all their time making sure that they're learning the ropes. But I think one of the ones is showing people how to use AI. So they're even and I'm going to use AI in an LLM perspective, like looking at Gemini or ChatGPT, showing them how to prompt engineer, showing them how you guys use it, showing them how it interacts with your internal systems is probably one of the bigger ones of how to get people in. But I think for those people that are, not even in the door yet, I think we mentioned it earlier on. Azahara mentioned it around, like the skills and practical experiences you can show with using AI, or your analysis skill or something creative you've done is probably the way in now. I think for hiring managers, personally, I don't know what you guys think, but I'd rather take somebody with 1 year or less experience, but solid experience, than somebody with 10 years experience doing the same thing every year. And that's what we're finding, where we're getting in nice where these dinosaurs of the industry that think they're doing really good stuff. But actually, I've had better results out of juniors and seen better ideas, better creativity from them. So yeah, I teach people how to use AI, but still bring them in and let them just flourish, let them learn, let them make mistakes, let them just do the rest of it. I don't think I've got a solid answer to this because we're still learning how to do it. Still taking a punt on younger generations because of which that you may not have. As a 31-year-old bloke, I have no idea how to market on Snapchat in the way that somebody that is say 21 will do, because they've grown up with the technology and they understand how to it.
Something that we need to have really clear right now is that the lack of employment at the moment is not due to AI, it's due to the economy. So it's a tough moment for a graduate to be in the job market, because it's not that AI has taken all the junior roles, it's because companies are not hiring. So they're not giving that opportunity to someone that just graduated to get the job. So it really doesn't change. I really come from Spain, so the economic crisis in 2008 was massive there, and I live in a time of really, really bad unemployment. And it was that moment where you just need to tough it up. You just need to find new ways of learning something and showing that you have that skill. Like I say, I learned Photoshop even if I never use it. So this is the same. It's like what Nick is saying. If you need to learn AI by yourself, which is the good thing about this technology, is that it gives you that opportunity. You actually can learn it by yourself. In fact, the future are agencies of just one person that are able to do thousands of different tasks with the help of AI. So if you're ambitious and you have that vision of the future and you start learning, that you will have a much better chance than just going. And again, maybe we're just looking at things in a very traditional way of like, I just get a junior role and then I climb the ladder and then I get to this point. Maybe the same as we have millionaires that started with YouTube now, maybe it's the same with AI. I always like to say that the person that is going to invent the next TikTok by using AI probably is like 5 years old now. So we don't know what is we don't know what is to come. So as long as you keep trying and you find new ways of like learning, and maybe, I have met some graduates that they were having the idea of like, I'm going to try and find a junior role. And then they realized that nothing was there for them. And then they started learning by themselves all these skills. And now they are freelancers. I will have never thought as a recent graduate to be a freelancer. I will be so scared of like trying it by myself. But they are doing it now. And I think there is a lot of that in the future of someone that just started. It's just a different way of doing things.
Yeah, I think putting my sort of just generic recruiter cap on, nothing specific to marketing, but I mean, I'm even thinking back to when I mainly recruited for developers, but the junior candidates for me that really stood out, it wasn't the people that were, here's my CV, I want a job. Do you know this? No, somebody will have to teach me it, or I need to be shown. The ones that really stood out were the ones who already had a GitHub or were already doing things, had things to showcase and present. It's like, oh, well, I couldn't find anyone to teach me it, so I went ahead and learned it myself. And I think it speaks volumes, not just because they've learned the skill, but the fact that you can tell that they've just got that intuition just to go, I'm not going to wait around. And again, I guess it goes that personality, quality, that human touch of learning a skill. It says so much more, not just about the skill and the value you're bringing, but what it says about you as a person. You're willing to put yourself through that. What else moving forward, like in the next 10 years of your career, you know, what else are you willing to go that extra mile, I guess, to stand out from the crowd?
No, I completely agree. I think proactivity is how I'd probably describe it, is that I look for it. And I think it goes without saying, which is why I've probably not mentioned it on this, is that it's something that I just sort of would expect from most people that want to do well in digital in their career, whether that's freelance, whether that's in a company. I technically taught myself JavaScript when I was younger, just because it got me to where I needed to be in terms of scripting for Google Ads. So yeah, I think completely agree, 100%. Like, work things out is definitely a key skill, which feels like anywhere.
But I think this is still relevant for AI, you know, not just about juniors starting their career, but established seniors. Don't be set in your ways. Always be learning. What is it that the newbies on the block are learning? What are the skills that people are looking for beginners who are starting out in this industry?
Yeah. And learning is never useless, you know, even like like I say, I never use Photoshop, but being familiarized with the software, now I'm able to use other type of softwares because they are more or less similar and they have used the same format as Photoshop. So learning something, you're always gonna have that experience in there, and you never know when you're gonna use it later in life. So I will say, if you don't know, you know, you don't find an answer, you can find a solution, you can find a job anywhere. Just keep learning, because you never know when it's gonna be useful in life later on.
Absolutely. So you mentioned like about the 2008 economic, you know, when it was really tough. And even thinking back to 5 years ago, during lockdown, it sort of showcased the people who were either being made redundant or were on furlough, kind of use that people made of that time as well to a bit of self-investment, self-learning. You can either take option A, which is sit around watching Netflix all day, or actually getting up, making your bed and thinking, today I'm going to teach myself JavaScript or LLMs if you were really ahead of the time back then. But, you know, I think that's maybe just a lesson for anyone really, not just marketers, but anyone in this kind of digital age, you know, find out what's out there and just keep learning, and take the incentive to learn it yourself. Don't wait for someone else to come and teach you, really. Thinking about that kind of back to our original sort of quote about future-proofing your career. Say if somebody is literally just starting a career tomorrow in marketing, digital marketing, what would you say in terms of tools they should be using in AI to future-proof their career for at least the next 5 years? What are the kind of the non-negotiables that they should be?
I think we'll probably both grab this as Azahara, some form of LLM. So if you're not using ChatGPT, Gemini, Perplexity, I don't really care which one you use. I think that is probably one of the bigger ones that's a non-negotiable for anybody. In my personal opinion, in the world I work in, if you are trying to get into technical or you're trying to break into doing more than just active management, which I know we said, Louise, is like something that will probably die down a tiny bit, make use of either make.com or NAN. I think both of those are solid tools that people can learn. And much to Azahara's comment is that they're quite similar, and it will teach you how to work with automation AI flows. And I think tackling both an LLM and like automation flow tool, you're going to be set and be miles ahead of a lot of other people that will have no idea how to use them, or just use them for day to day, like how to cut an avocado, for example. Which, yeah, I don't know why one comes ahead, but yeah, I'd say Make, and for me it's ChatGPT, but I also use Perplexity and also Claude are the main ones for me.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think that if you are starting, start creating prompts. Prompts is the new, you know, communication skill you're gonna need, and it is useful for any tool. It's useful for a language model because it's the way that we communicate with AI. So creating really good prompts is just gonna be like the future. So I'll say focus on that, and then obviously sometimes we give for granted, but before you are able to do any of these automations, you still need to know how an Excel sheet works, for example, because if you are doing an automation and you need to connect an Excel sheet with, you know, with the language model or whatever, the automation help you to connect then, but you still need to know a little bit of how an Excel works. Just the normal tools that you always have used, like, you know, Excel, Word, or Google Sheets, or whatever it is, have some knowledge of that. And then obviously what Nick has mentioned of Make, facebook.com, for example, then I will say if you can try, the prompt is very useful for this, but start investigating a little bit like Nano Banana or PixArt, any like tools that is more like creative to generate images. Just because maybe if you're a junior, probably we all have one of these roles at the beginning where you were doing a little bit of everything. And when you do a little bit of everything, maybe you need to create an image for an ad that you need to do yourself. So having some sort of knowledge of these tools where you create your own images is also very useful. But yeah, the good thing is the majority of these tools have free trials. So give it a go, see how they work, and then go to the next one that it gives you free credits and give it a go again. Go to conferences where they will give you more free credits, and then use them as much as you can. And then because they all work more or less the same. So once that you know to use one, you know how to use another one.
Nice. We'll have to add a link into some of these sites that you've mentioned just so people can easily navigate and find these resources. So yeah, I think from what you said, there's almost, I don't say an excuse, but there's no reason not to almost discover and push yourself to find what these are, especially if they're free. I think it's important for employers to maybe allow employees that time to say, look, I really think this would benefit me. It's free, can I just spend some of my working day just really investing in this?
I always like to give this example of a conference that I went once, and it was more about AI and like the visual aspect of it. And it was this guy that has created his own production company, and he's the director, the producer, the distributor of his own AI film that he created by himself, just putting a lot of hours in learning the tools. And he just have done this like short movie, and he's doing everything, and he's doing it just with the help of AI. And it just means that it was someone that took the time to learn how to use the tool. And then once that you know how to learn the tool, this is the good thing about AI, that instead of spending 6 months in creating a short film, he spent it 1 week. Once that you have done one, the next one will be easier to create. So I think that's the good example of like how learning these tools, you can actually create something for yourself and like maybe becoming freelancer or sole trader or whatever.
Yeah, I think if we can all relate to a personality who is almost set in their ways, stubborn, doesn't like change, doesn't want to embrace the new, just the old ways, the good way, etc., etc. But how does somebody who is quite established in their career adapt? And
I don't know. It feels like it's the same as it's always been. Just like slapping AI in front of it is that constantly move with the times. Like, be open to change, be open to learning. Like, let's be honest, the paid media has changed in the last 10, 11 years I've been doing it, and it probably continue will. If I was still stuck in my ways doing manual bidding, I probably wouldn't be doing my job correctly. I do zero bidding nowadays, but you get the vibe. But yeah, like I think the AI part of it is just what it's always been, is just constantly adapt and learn and change and test. It's that whole, like, we always have testing hypothesis, right? Do exactly the same with how you work, and then if it works, it works. If it doesn't, bin it off. Just be open to change. I think nothing has changed in the past. It's the same.
Yeah, I'll say just let it go, and like don't take it personal if someone that is not in the same level as you in your career knows more than you or knows more about something that you don't. In fact, take it and see how you can introduce it because if you are further in your career, the chances are that you're probably higher up in your profession. So take that as an opportunity, like question everything and look at where something can teach you, how you can implement it in your own work to make it better, because maybe it's saving you 5 days of your time. I don't know. So just don't be stubborn and keep an open mind, and don't take it personal if someone knows more than you, because it's logical that someone is going to know more than you in certain things. So it's fine. Just let it go.
I was listening to a podcast that there was a really interesting message, which was essentially always be asking for feedback, no matter how established you are and think you are. You may think, oh, well, I've been doing this for years, I'm absolutely brilliant. You should always be asking questions. How could I have done that better? How could things be improved? And again, I guess it goes back to that kind of growth mindset. And I don't know if that's something that you can build in yourself. I do think that the people who are really sort of going to do well with AI will already have that growth mindset, and I think that is just an important part of nature to have that. And sadly, I think there are some with a fixed mindset who just might be set in their ways for life. But I think something I've definitely noticed is the importance of having that kind of growth mindset, self-reflection, and just thinking about, what I should be doing to improve myself and learn from people around me, really.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I find the most is there is a lot of people where they're not using it because they do not agree. They're afraid of what the technology can do, like the environmental concerns of like the use of data and stuff like that. And I always say the same, that is like, just use it. So you have some knowledge, so you can ask the right questions and you can ask for the right rules and the right legislations, even at work. You can go to your employee and be like, hey, we're using AI at work, but I actually have noticed that, everybody in my team, they're sharing, but you need to have that knowledge to be able to put the right laws in place, etc. So just, get into it, use it, and that way you can start asking the right questions.
Absolutely. Perfect. Well, I think we're sort of coming to the end of our discussion. So just to sort of wrap things up from both of you, if you could give us an overview of what are your current favorite AI tools that you're using and you think everyone in marketing should be using?
I am using, and I think I've used it for a while now, but N8N, so N8N.com or .ai, I can't remember which one it is a fantastic tool for automating workflows. I think it's probably my favorite tool. It's not necessarily just AI, it's an automation tool, but has an absolute load of AI involved in it. And then the other one that I'm absolutely loving, I think Azahara mentioned it earlier, but the latest update to Google's imaging and video with Nano Banana, it's phenomenal. I don't think I've used a tool that's left me absolutely mind blown of how good it can produce images. And we're trying to use it in a thing called Dreamboard at the moment. Dreamboard, go on GitHub, Google it. It is fantastic. It pulls in Imagen and Via and all the other tools, and it allows you to create like almost movie style shorts without having to bother with anything else. And it allows you to storyboard it and the rest of it. So yeah, Dreamboard, Nano Banana, N8N are the three that I absolutely love at the moment.
For me, one that I discovered not that long ago, and I'm actually really liking it, just because it's a little bit like, wow, Google AI Studio. Just because the fact that I'm working and talking to Gemini at the same time, and you can see my screen and everything, is just like blow minding. And also I'm using a combo between Nano Banana and PixArt to create my images. I'm creating some sort of, like lately I've been creating some sort of mascot from my consultancy. And I'm developing everything using Nano Banana and PixArt, and it's great. Like, it has a little video, some sort of avatar, and it can talk. So it's just, it's amazing. It's quite unbelievable for me that I am capable to do that things thanks to AI, because 5 years ago I couldn't have done it.
Definitely. Oh no, so those are the ones to watch for from the masters of AI. And what about sort of the future? You're probably both always aware from conferences and so on, what's the next big thing that's going to be coming out. So have you got like one thing about that's up and coming that you're excited about in marketing and AI that is going to be the next game changer?
I think I don't know if there's anything coming up. I need to catch up on OpenAI's just on a dev day that I'm waiting to watch probably later tonight. So there's nothing up and coming that I'm like really excited about. But thing that is really new is the incorporation of MCPs across the board for most platforms. MCPs are essentially, it allows you to connect into APIs really quickly. So you can connect external data into things like chatbots or into programs a lot quicker. So ChatGPT, it's also come to Claude, and it's come to a few of lightweight LLM tools that exist out there. So it allows you to essentially, it's ones that allow you to call your bank or other things like that, or add credit card information. I think in the next couple months is going to just continue to increase. Same with ChatGPT launching the shopping element. It's not in the UK yet, but it's touted to come to the UK. I think that's pretty exciting. If not a bit scary that we've already had credit card information stolen, but exciting that we're seeing the grassroots of these things happen.
We're going to be recruiting for like ChatGPT specialists soon, aren't we? ChatGPT ads specialist. That's going to be the next thing.
Boots are already looking for an AI and LM specialist. So yeah, it's happening. It's going to come. And I think ChatGPT themselves, or OpenAI, are actually recruiting at the moment for performance market managers to manage ads on platform, which is pretty cool.
It's going to be the future, really. Yeah. Is there anything else from you, Azahara, about what's coming up and
About the
coming that you're
future.
excited about?
I'm quite curious to see how agentic teams are gonna work in the future, because there has been some tests out there. There is people running agents already, and there is some people already creating agent teams very successfully. But I really want to see how that actually is gonna be used in real life and how they're gonna be working, etc. I think that's gonna be, it's gonna again blow my mind. And the other thing that I'm quite excited is just the return of brand. I love branding. I think it's the essence of marketing, and I'm really curious to see how, especially for I think it's the good time for the smaller fishes in the market to have their opportunity to work in their brands and actually showing the language models before the big fishes. So I think that is going to change the game.
Amazing. Good. Well, there's a lot there to reflect on and think about for the future. So put it in your diary now. 5 years time, our avatars will come back, reflect on this podcast and think, what did those idiots know? Not a lot. They had no idea what was coming. But I think the key thing is if we can help a few people who are insecure or questioning the kind of stability of their career, and this has given some food for thought. We've hopefully got a load of great new free incentives that people should be looking at. So yeah, really appreciate both of you joining me today, and thank you so much for being part of this episode.
Thank you so much. Been a pleasure.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Thank you for having us.